Let's face it, getting older sucks. Getting older in the age of social media is even worse. Do you hate it when people tell you to age gracefully? Do you want to know how to live your best life at any age? Well, so do we. First rule, don't call me ma'am. Now, here's Jodi Miller. Hey everybody, this is Jodi Miller and you're listening to Don't Call Me Ma'am. Don't fucking call me ma'am. Today, I am so excited for this guest, and I know I say that with all my guests, but today I mean it. No, I really mean it. He is such an inspiration on so many levels, and I've known him for 12 years, which is crazy, but our lives, completely, they were on the same path, and then we just had a fork in the road and we went on two totally different paths. And I'm so excited to talk to him about everything that he's done and all the people he's inspired. He's so amazing. I would normally introduce him as a comic because that's how, I know him, but he is a motivational speaker. He is an entrepreneur. He's a dad. He is a producer, a writer, a director. I don't even there's so many things there's so many things. So you're going to have to just tell everyone, guys, put your hands together. And I know you're not driving anywhere because nobody is. Nobody is. Put your hands together right now for Justin McClure. Woo! The crowd goes wild.
Jodi,
it's like getting up on stage, right?
Yeah. Can I say right off the bat, it is hard to describe what we do, what I do, but I would say in some sense, I'm still a comedian. I'm just taking my voice and my comedy over to YouTube and video.
Of course. So, here's the thing. Comedians, and what I really appreciate from all of your content and, a lot of, the videos that you do, we're natural storytellers. We can sort of relate to so many different topics and so many different areas, and we can take our pain and sort of flip it into something funny, tragedy plus time equals comedy. And I feel like people really relate to the message when it comes from a place of humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree 100%. And, part of my story that we'll get to is that I had to really find more of my voice, which I didn't really find as much during stand-up, but after stand-up, or at some point in, 2010, 2012, I found a lot of humility from things that happened in my life. And I was able to really find more of my voice. And when I transferred that over into more filmmaking, right, I was able to use more of an authentic voice, more of an authentic Justin, and tell these stories through YouTube and other things, which so happened to coincide with this whole internet boom and all these other things. And the advice I give a lot of comedians now, they're just Justin, how do I do what you're doing? Well, one, you already know how to tell good stories.
Right.
Now you just have to learn how to, edit and all the technical stuff. But
right.
With that said, it's a blessing, and I'm super, super grateful for it. But I would still say that I'm a comedian on some level. My audience is much more difficult because it's my family, and they don't think I'm as funny.
They are the most critical and the most difficult crowd. It doesn't matter, what what the ages of your family, your parents, your kids, your spouse, your partner. It doesn't matter. It is, your siblings. They are. I'll never forget. I did a triple run in Reno that my mom saw, which was a 20 minutes. And then the next night I ended up headlining, and I'll never forget. So my mom saw a 15-minute set, and then she saw a 55-minute set. And after the 55-minute set, we sat down to dinner, and I was like, well, and she's like, well, what? I'm like, well, what did you think? She's like, well, I saw it last night. I'm like, Mom, that was 15 minutes last night. Tonight was 55 minutes.
Right.
That's a much bit. And she's like, it's the same thing. I was like, what? That was what my mom thought of my comedy. And she was very supportive, don't get me wrong, but she couldn't even grasp one is very short, a very short period of time, and one is an hour. She was like, it's the same. You looked good.
A compliment to you. I mean, the compliment basically is that I guess you entertained for the entire time. And a lot of people can entertain for 20 minutes, but for 55, that's a whole different thing. So what you're saying is that it was the same thing because you were entertaining for both sets.
Right. Or she fell asleep after minute 15 on that second set, and it was all the same to her. She didn't even hear the last 40 minutes.
Either way, she had a good time.
That's right. She did have a good time. All right. So cut to New Year's Eve. 2009, ringing in 2009. We had so much hope and promise for the future. We were in Anchorage, Alaska, and they love to drink there. We got our drink on, super fun. Then we worked the road in 2010. We did some triple runs, which were like really crazy, which is just basically you're going around the Northwest and you're, I think we flew into like Idaho and rented a car. Where did we go?
You and I did, we did,
I think Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just drove, we rented a car. We had to like drive around and it was just, but it was super fun. It was like a show a night.
Yep.
The pay was horrific. Horrific pay. Let's just be honest. I feel like we paid them. I feel like that's what it felt like. Like we were actually giving them money just to get stage time. And then you moved to New York. And then the next time I actually really see you again was like through Facebook, and you were doing a lot of humanitarian work, correct?
Yeah, I was. That was, so long story short, okay. I moved to New York. I was doing stand-up and I was doing every night. Like I was doing the same thing. It was great because I was, I wasn't a regular at all the clubs, but I was a regular at Gotham.
Yeah.
I was getting up at Broadway. I was getting up at New York. I was getting up.
New York is so great for comedy. I mean, you can get up so many times in one night compared to like Los Angeles. It's definitely, you can definitely get better. Not that you needed to, but young comics, I tell a lot of young comics when they're deciding where to go. Well, if you want to get up as many, those open mics actually have real audience members normally when the world's open, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was getting up, 3 times a night if I wanted to. And the thing is, like, kind of like I got my hustle on like I did everywhere else. I started producing a show, and then that gave me leverage. And so I was able to kind of like, if I was 15 minutes away from a set, I'd call a guy, I'd get on over there, I'd put him up. So it was really good. But the thing is, it's like, Jodi, I guess it comes down to, I really, went back to drinking really heavy. And I don't know if you know this, but you probably do. But 2005, 2006, like I had a few DUIs.
I think I remember you telling me that. But by the way, like we were, in our early 30s, and I didn't. This is going to sound terrible, but I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to this can relate. I didn't know anyone who didn't have a DUI. I didn't have a DUI, but like you telling me you've got a couple DUIs, I'm like, well, yeah, duh. I mean, that's kind of cool, like street cred.
It was the best time to, but then again, when I was in New York around this time, when I was like 35 or so, around 35, okay, this is what happened. In 2012, I was womanizing the shit out of New York. I was the best. I mean, Jodi,
I got the newsletter. I actually did get that newsletter.
I mean, I was like, so I had a 6-figure day job. So I had a really good day job, but my day job was so great that I would like leave at 4 and I would just be gone. I would go and I would do sets. It was great. Right.
That's great. Yeah.
But I was living literally paycheck to paycheck because I was just drinking every bit of my money, or I was on women, whatever it was. And that went on for like a while. Anyhow, in 2012, I saw a movie, and in the movie, I saw a guy about my age, and he wasted his NBA career through drugs and alcohol. And as I was drinking, I was drunk. There was one part in the movie where he got sober, right? So he got sober. And in this movie, he went back to revisit where he used to drink all the time. Right. And he said, this is where I passed out right here while my wife and my kid were at the airport waiting for me.
Oh, what movie was this? Why do I know this scene?
It's called Unguarded. It's the Chris Herron story. It's about an NBA basketball player. So when that happened, I said, that's pathetic. And then I said, oh, wait, that's you.
Oh, wow.
And this really happened.
Well, for you to have the foresight, because normally people would say that's pathetic and then just get another drink. Do you know what I mean? even if they knew it, most people that I know that deal with addiction, they would just be like, well, that's them. That's not me. Or I don't even care. Even if they do like relate it. So the fact that you you recognize that is massive.
Well, it was, I don't know if it was the addiction. I mean, and I don't want to compare myself to you in this regard, but maybe you'll get it. Okay. I think some of us have a gear, like you have the same gear that I have. And I think it's an intensity, and it's not alcohol or drugs. It's like anything I do in life, I don't know how to back off. Like I'm going to go in, like if I'm working out or I'm running, I'm going to run a marathon. So it's like, sure, if you put alcohol in front of me, I'm going to go crazy with that. But
Right.
when I saw that movie and I said out loud, "That's pathetic. Oh, wait, that's you." Man, I can only tell you that I was by myself and I had so much shame go through my body. And I just said, man, you're 35 years old. You're pretty much couch surfing. You're paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, didn't you expect more from yourself? And the shame kind of also at the same time equaled this like inspiration that says, well, you don't have to anymore. And so what I told myself is I said, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm just not going to drink. I'm just the one thing I'm going to do, because, and this is what I tell people when they try to, quote unquote, change their lives.
Right.
You can't do 17 different things. You have to simplify it. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to not drink tomorrow. And then that led to the next day and the next day. And I haven't had a drink since. I haven't had a drink since. And so the humanitarian work that you mentioned was 6 months after I was sober,
Mm-hmm.
I was going crazy in my mind. And
Right.
for me to stay away from bars
Right.
and other places, I had to put my energy into something. And I was single and I was trying not to online date or womanize or go to bars and that stuff. So I was just like, what do I do every night to keep me away from these vices?
Right.
And so I said, I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to tutor. I'm going to, help kids out. And that's where I really found a big dose of humility. That was the first step in not only recovery, but finding the humility I needed to find my real authentic voice.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you, Jodi, is I think I was really funny, but I don't think I was a really good comic because I never really found who I was. I was always insecure. I wanted to like please people, or
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to please another comic, or I never really was bold enough to be who I really was. And I think you can relate to that, not because that's who you are, but because you know what that mentality is about.
Absolutely. I mean, for a long time, including, in 2008, 2009, and 2010, I mean, when we were, in the same circuit, I was just really finding my voice. That's when I was really coming into my own voice, it's evolved every year. Stand up for me, like, here's the thing. I look at people in this industry, especially in comedy, and they're like people that were born comedians and people that are born performers. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I were definitely born performers.
Oh yeah,
we are performers. But I have a lot of friends that are that were born comedians, and that's what they were meant to do on every level. And they've branched out into other stuff, which is amazing.
When did you start stand up?
I started stand up, 90, it's been like 24 years. It's been a really long time.
Okay.
See, I started in New York when I was 24, and I did it for 3 years there before I moved out to LA. And then when I moved out to LA, I was like, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm an actor. I only did it to further my acting career. But again, I couldn't get any work really acting, but everyone was like, oh, I saw you do stand up once. You should do this. You should do that. And I was like, but without stand up, I wouldn't have become a writer, a producer, a creator. It wouldn't have led me to everything that I'm doing now. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. But that took me a long time to find that. And even when when I was running the C Word at the Comedy Store, I really hadn't even tapped into I was just tapping into my authentic self at that point. I was sort of like, yeah.
Because I remember you, this is what I really remember. I remember you, the first time I saw you, I was like, what a great performer, but I didn't think your jokes were that strong. But then gradually I was just like, I remember, I know you're going to laugh at me, you're going to think it's hilarious because I know you get this all the time, but the thing you're doing then, the cat thing you did, and I know you've done it on TV and other things, but I just thought it was like so funny. And it's like, it made me jealous because like, you're one of the people that I knew that I was a funny person. If I would just get out from behind the microphone, if I would just be this, like you used to do, this thing was so physical. And I was just like, man, like in a way it made me a little jealous, but I loved watching you go from this place. And at some point you were so funny. I was just like, you're one of the funniest people that I saw appear. You were so funny that if you were around, I had friends, I was like, no, you have to watch her.
That is a great compliment for people that don't know. When another comic is like, dude, watch this comic. That's such a great, I mean, I felt the same way about you, and I didn't realize that internally you had that struggle. And it's interesting because, I taught stand up for many, many years and still privately coach, comics. And it really is about, you know, finding your authentic voice and talking about stuff that, is possibly painful or, uncomfortable, being comfortable in that uncomfortable place, because we are, as performers, as comics, the voice of the audience. We're usually talking about stuff that they, the audience members, they can't get on stage and talk about, or they don't even want to like admit it to their friends. It's stuff that's relatable. Like, when my mom was dying, I knew I am going to be talking about this, and it will probably be incredibly uncomfortable for people. But every time I, talk about my mom's death, or my mom being dead, I get that like mixed reaction from the audience. Like half the people are like, oh, and the other people, well, they're either like, or oh, and then the other half of the audience are laughing so hard. And I'm like, you hear those people laughing? They've also lost a loved one. And it usually makes everyone else laugh, because it's like these, talking about real things, which I probably would have never have done, 10 years ago. I didn't have the nerve. I finally got to that place where I was like, I don't care. It really is for me. You know what I mean? And I think you were so great. So I'm watching you doing, all this work, and for whatever the reason is, if it was because you needed something to fill, to occupy your space, your mind, everything, it sort of led you down a specific path. You know what I mean? Which I talk a lot about social media and utilizing it, and you've done it incredibly well. You just embraced it. You saw it coming.
There is an irony to all this. Like, we can get into it because I try to help people in this regard, but we built a 7-figure year business off
Yeah, you
social
did.
media. Ironically, I'm hardly on social media. I don't, I am so intense about my time now. Like, I'm such a shell of the person I was in many regards, but what they say about me is I don't suffer fools. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
I don't mince words. I'm playful, and I'm genuine, and I'm kind. I'm not nice. I wouldn't say that. I'm purposeful. You know what I mean? Like, I'm purposeful.
Yes.
And so what I'm saying by that is I'm a total creative, and I create. I don't consume.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing. And that's the difference. You know what I mean? You're definitely like, and looking at, like, I remember, your daughter's video, the one that went viral. I remember seeing it all over Facebook, and you are the perfect example of, it doesn't matter how you get somewhere. It's what you do when you get there. And you took a moment, and you took it and you ran with it, and you didn't let fear stop you. You didn't let what if this doesn't work out? Is this going to be a waste of my time? I don't know how to do this. I can't figure this out. Like, a lot of excuses that so many people use.
Yeah.
So,
You know what happened, Jodi, with that? It's
tell me.
Because, comics ask, because, I've had so many comedians during the pandemic reach out to me, like, how do I get on YouTube? Or like, how do I this and that? Or can you mention my book? And basically what I'm saying is that I took a moment, and it was my daughter's, and I took that moment and I said, I'm going to learn how to not exploit my kids, but to learn how to turn this into a family brand where people care about our family.
Yes.
Now, along the way, I'm going to have to learn how to be a really good filmmaker and photographer and like social media guy, all this stuff. So I had to like put my 10,000 hours into like many different places.
Wait, let me ask you a question. Were you already, because I remember seeing in the beginning, it was a lot more of the photography than it was the videos. They were smaller videos. Were you always into photography?
Yeah, I was doing photography even in LA. Like, I was doing headshots and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. All right, great. I assumed that you were, because I was like, he's really good. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's like, in LA, I got tired of paying $300 every few months for bad photos. I just said, I'm gonna teach myself.
Yes, seriously. Oh my God, yeah.
So that's kind of what happened there. And like, our daughters went mega viral. And in the beginning, people just wanted to see the girls, and like, but we slowly kind of built this family thing.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, it got strong enough where, like, we kind of really got our tentacles into every place, like Facebook. We got deals over there, and YouTube and Instagram. And so, but was it a lot of work? And has it been a lot of work? It was so much work that, like, working for myself, I've never worked so hard and been so self-motivated. So people don't understand. It's like, oh, you got cute kids, it was easy. It's like, no, anybody can go viral. Like, you've seen it. Like,
yes,
people go viral. You forget about these people 3 days later. Like, we were able to take that moment, and I was able to like put in the hours and like slowly build, ourselves up. And so
Yeah.
at some point, it was like we arrived, and like people loved the family, and people loved it. Like, also, I don't have an ego anymore about like I need to be in front of the camera. Like I like directing, I like writing, like I like to be the guy making the magic for the people. And so it's really worked out well because my family are stars and like my kids are great. So it's like, look at
I know
everything.
it's amazing. Your family is beautiful, and you did it the absolute right way, because you could have immediately, that's what I mean by like, it doesn't matter, how you get somewhere, it's what you do when you get there, because a lot of people could have been like, oh my God, they went viral. Let's just all of us be in front of the camera. You could have easily gone a different way. Everything was very loving and came from a place of love. And it was very, clear, like this is a family that is, loves each other and loves just, doing what they're doing. And so it's very inspiring in that way, because there can be a lot of stage parents.
Well, yeah, the thing is, like, I was able to take my energy from writing jokes every day, and obviously the deleterious part of my life of drinking and such. I was able to take all that energy and just learn how to be a really good story maker, filmmaker, all that type of stuff. But first and foremost, when we were viral and nothing's changed to now, I'm a dad first.
You're
Like
dad.
I care about my family. I want to spend time with them. We probably could make even more money and do other things, but like I care about. I've gotten to the point in life, and I'm at the age where I know that like I've accepted my mortality. I know that I'm here for a short amount of time.
Yes.
I don't care. It's like we turn down things all the time that are like another 10,000 here or whatever. It's just like, how much time is that going to take?
Exactly. No, it's like, it doesn't matter how much money it is. It's time that you need to spend with your family. Like, our time is very short on this planet. It's interesting because I went through like my own, like, spiritual journey, which I'm still, going through in the last few years. And, you can see a lot of things. The older you get, it is that wisdom. And, it's just funny because, they always say, what is it? Youth is wasted on the young. And it's so true. It's like, I wish I knew, of course, what I know now when I was younger. You know what I mean? I don't know if I would have done that much different, but it's the journey that I'm on now is I'm so happy. I'm so at peace with everything that I'm doing. And like,
Right.
I love to remind either mostly other comics, but even other writers, like, 5.5 years ago, I was delivering groceries, and I had an opportunity to work as a writer for not a lot of money on these pilots for Funny You Should Ask. And I didn't want to do it. I was like, I'm going to be working 10 to 7 all day in a writer's room. Just like my whole life. I was like, no, it's like all my freedom. And then I'm going to be too tired to do sets. And I almost turned it down. I almost talked myself out of it. And the guy that I was dating at the time was like, I think you should do this. He wasn't even in the industry, but he was like, I really feel like you should do this. I was like, this just sounds terrible. My whole life is going to change. And he was like, yeah, exactly. And that just sort of stuck with me. And I took it. And I remember being like, well, I'll quit in a month if I don't like it. And it was brutal. It was a lot of work. It exercised a part of my brain that was not used to, like, it was a different kind of joke writing, different kind of writing and creating. And then we shot the pilots, and it changed my life. I own a house now. And for those of you like, to own a home in Los Angeles is, insane.
Yeah, I want to talk about something you said because it's interesting. It's I don't know how you touched upon it, but I wouldn't change anything. I know it's cliche, but I want to say that, and this is going to sound weird, but
No. I love weird. Let's do weird.
But most people I tell this, they don't get it. I think everyone should go to jail. I think everyone should go to rehab. I think everyone should basically pass out by a dumpster 7-8 times. I think everyone should pee on themselves, whatever it is. Because what I'm saying is that you mentioned youth. When you're young and dumb, you're going to make those mistakes. But when I die, let's say I can live to be 88. Hopefully I die at 88. I want to look back and say, you know what? The choices in life, the arc in life, I did it all. I was in the valley. I was at the top. I was down. If I never got those DUIs, if I never went to jail, all those different things, I would not have that experience. And how great is life going to be? At some point you pass and you say, I fucking did it all.
Yeah.
I check every box in life. I did it all. And I'm saying, in your youth, you're dumb enough, and I'm glad I was dumb enough to make those mistakes. Now I'm at a more productive phase in life, but I'm so glad I can say I've already checked the dumb boxes. Now I'm going to have more success in other things, you know?
Yeah, no, you're so right. I think we're very fortunate, being performers and creators. And this isn't putting anyone else down who's not, by the way, but a lot of people, like, all of my friends that I'm still really good friends with from college, we got out of college and they, got a job in their field pretty immediately, because that's what you do. You get out of college, you get a job, and you build up your resume, and you work up you work yourself up the corporate ladder, and, you either love your job or you leave that company, you go to another job, you buy a home, you have a family. And, whether most of my friends do love their jobs, some of them have left their jobs and like pivoted and started a brand new, career, but they didn't live the life they didn't live the lives that you and I have led in a lot of different ways, because, we were able to, with comedy, travel around the world. We kind of lived like kids a lot longer than a lot of other people,
Yep. That is a good way to look at it. That is a good way to look at comedy, like in your early to mid 30s, traveling around,
Oh
getting
my
drunk.
God, we were still living. I mean, we were a little bit older. We had a little bit more money, not a lot, but we didn't have children. We didn't have like a mortgage. We were like, we could still, I remember my friends being like, I was envious of them because they owned homes and they had a savings account. But they were like envious of me. Like, you're still like going to like amazing bars and restaurants, and you can pick up and travel, and you're like, you're doing military tours, and you're going to Paris, and you're over here. So it's kind of like the grass greener type of thing. And it's interesting because I'm starting the next phase of my life, and I'm actually in the process of adoption. So I'm adopting.
Yeah.
Because I really want to be a mom. That's always been the plan. And it didn't work out when I, tried to do it on my own.
How's that process going? You're in the middle of that?
I'm in the middle of it. It's been a year, for me, because I'm single, it's easier for me to go the straight adoption, try to get matched with a birth mom, situation, which is exactly like dating, Justin. It's like swiping. It's like she's gotta like me, I gotta like her, and we see each other on paper, and then there's like a phone call, and it's like a little awkward, and then like I go see her, but she's already pregnant. So
This is stand-up that you do?
I do talk about it. I don't talk about that much, but I do talk about that. My lawyer was like, tell everyone you're adopting, because you never know where that baby's going to come from. So when I am on stage, I am like, anybody who's planning on having sex tonight, do not use a condom. Like, no birth control. I want an oops, because Jodi will take that baby.
It's funny.
But I mean, that's, I had to mourn the loss of not being able to have my own biological child. That was a very, very hard one to mourn. I'm still mourning. I always still mourn it a little bit when friends of mine.
Why couldn't you just?
Well, now, I'm too old. It would take a ridiculous amount of money and a lot of like science fiction. It's not impossible, but it would be a lot.
This is not something you wanted to do when you're 37 or something? Like when you're younger,
it's so funny. It was one of those things, like, so we were talking about living like kids. Like, it's interesting because guys don't think about it the way women do. It's not very fair. I remember I was doing a show with Jamie Kennedy a couple of years ago. I just gotten off stage and I was heading to do another spot. And Jamie's a really good friend of mine, but I was watching him, and he's my age. And at that time, he's a little bit older, but he just turned 48. And he was like, so, I'm 48 and I don't know if I want to have kids. And my first thought was, how fucking nice. I was so irritated. I was like, oh, it must be so nice that you don't know if you want to. Like, women have to decide or freeze their eggs, or, you know what I mean? Because we have an expiration date. And I was very resentful of that statement. And and him and I talked about it on my podcast, like, about how it's just, at 37 is when I really should have either freeze my eggs, or made some sort of plan so that I didn't have to, because I didn't start trying until I was 42. And because I was like, oh my God, time's running out. And my doctor was like, okay, you're still good, but we have to do it right now. And you know, you had to go through the sperm donors, which is also just like dating. And it was, it was, you know, while I got a lot of material out of it, I really thought at the end I would have a baby. I had that childlike optimism where I was like, well, I'll just get pregnant. But guess what, Justin? I mean, I know you have 3, you greedy, greedy man, but it is a miracle. Apparently, it's a miracle to have a baby.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But you know, the opposite of that, Jodi, is that when I was 37, I did not want to be a dad. It's the farthest thing I wanted to be. It was like basically, but kind of like what Jamie said is like,
Right.
you know, men have that privilege of being like in their early or even 50 and like, I think I want to be a dad now. So, for me, and I don't know if you know this, but the girls, Ava and Alexa, I adopted them.
Oh, are you serious? I had no idea. Yeah. Oh my God.
So quick story there is that.
Oh my God. Yes. This is like amazing. Yes. Please tell me.
You're going to love this.
I can't wait.
So, you know, I got sober. And so I'm going to tell a little bit here. So when how did I get sober? Where I talked about some of the volunteer work that I did and humanitarian stuff, but it's not because I'm a goody. I was just like trying to fucking stay out of the bars and trying to stop chasing women around Manhattan. So what I did every night, Jodi, is I worked on Wall Street and I lived in Washington Heights.
Right.
Okay. So I walked every day from Wall Street to Washington Heights home.
Right.
Because that kept me away from bars and everything.
Right.
There's a point where I'm telling you this.
No. I'm into it. I'm into it.
I did that so long for about 6-9 months through the winter time that I started to get healthy. And I started to get dangerous in a good way. I was like, man, I'm being productive now. Like, I can't tell you how insecure I was about how much I needed alcohol in my life just to function, the social anxiety that I had, all these different things. But I said, I'm going to walk every day because that will keep me focused and I can just walk and listen to podcasts. So, 2013, I met my wife.
Right.
She's beautiful.
Beautiful. She's beautiful. Your wife is beautiful.
So I met her, you know, kind of fortuitously, and she tells me she has identical twins. They're turning 1 like in a week. And that scares the shit out of me because here I am, you know, I guess 38 or 39 or whatever it was, almost 40. And I was like, oh, just my luck. Somebody I might be able to date, but yet I don't want kids.
Right.
So, and a little backstory on that. She has her own story and trajectory as far as growth. She was with a guy who this is what happened. She got pregnant and this guy disappeared and he was a drunk and he was a womanizer and he never saw the girls. Like he was just a piece of shit, right? Just that guy. And I don't speak publicly about it because I'm not here to shame, like this guy's got
No, of course.
This guy's got his own karma. But the point is my wife almost died in the hospital on a PICC line and, you know, getting food intravenously, lived in the hospital because she had some type of thing where it was very, very difficult. So what I'm saying, she almost died having the
girls, right.
So she hadn't been on a date in a year. She happens to be in New York. I hadn't been on a date in a year because I'm sober. Because I've been staying away from everybody. So
because you can't date when you're sober. Everyone knows that.
Exactly. So, so we happen to meet. She tells me she's got these girls, and I'm like, great. Here's a beautiful woman, but yet now I'm freaking out because she's got these kids. I'm gonna exit, right? But anyhow, you know what I did is exactly what your ex told you.
Right.
I said to myself, you know, Justin, do you want to keep living the life you've lived? Because it hasn't been a winning streak. You're trying something new by changing your life. Mm-hmm. Maybe be open. And so what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to meet these little girls. And I went over to her house in New Jersey, and it only took a couple times. And I was just like I was hooked. I was hooked. And so I fell in love with her and the girls. And like within a month, I basically just kind of took a strong position. I said, let's move in together. Because like all of a sudden I became very protective of the girls because I knew of this ex and I was just like, this guy is dangerous. And so on the girl's second birthday, I was already in motion to adopt them. Wow. And then we got married. And so this all happened like I can't even believe how, so it happened so quickly. So when the girls were 2, I adopted them, and I'm their dad, but yeah, I did not bring them into the world.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing story. I had no idea. I mean, here's the thing. It's, because I've taken a lot of classes and have kept a lot of like video journaling about this whole process. And, it's one of those things where I had to ask myself the same thing. Like, is it more important for me to be a mom or to give birth? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's really the question when I was going through that mourning process of I can't have my own child. And of course it was a no-brainer. Like, I just want to be a mom. I've always wanted to be a mom. And it doesn't matter, how this child comes to me. They're coming to me. In fact, it's very funny because out of the blue, I one day about like 6 months ago ordered these little booties. I just saw them and I just bought them because I know my baby's on its way. Like, I already know that for sure. Right. But it's like one of those things where you believe it and it doesn't matter, how it comes to you. It was meant to be. They were always meant to be your girls. You know what I mean? She was always meant to be your wife. And you guys, neither one of you were ready to meet each other at any other time in your life. It was that time. Even if the girls were 6 months, even if it was 6 months earlier, it probably would have had a totally different outcome.
I've had many conversations with the girls. I'm very forthcoming, and we talk about it. And I tell the girls, I say, I was always meant to be your dad, but I had to get ready and prepare myself to be a good dad, because you would not have wanted me to be, a dad when I was 38 or so. So, but to talk about the adoption, I did wonder in the back of my mind, how would I feel about it? Like when I had my biological son, Jersey, and I can honestly tell you.
By the way, best name ever.
Is it a great name?
Well, I'm from Jersey, and your son is gorgeous, as you know. Just as gorgeous as your daughter's. Your son is amazing and gorgeous, but also, my cat's name is Jersey. So obviously, yes, my cat's name is Jersey. So whenever I hear Jersey, I'm like, what? Literally, my cat just like came running in when I just said that, by the way.
It's a great name. We were trying to, Ava and Alexis, and my wife's named Ami. So Justin, we were just trying to be cheesy and like,
you got to do it. And Jersey's the best way, because you could have just gone with like John or Jim or, Jared. So you can't do that. You got to put like a cool name, and Jersey is really cool.
But when you love a child, it's like the girls, like, I don't even discern that he's my biological.
Of course not.
No. I have 3 kids, and I don't even think outside of that. And they're all equally beautiful and great. They're all different. But I can honestly say, like, I hope, not that I hope, I know it's going to work out for you, because I really feel like the gift that you're going to have, and I know it's cheesy to say all this stuff, but
I'm all about it.
Being in your 40s, you will understand this, is that, like, I really just want to grow old and have people care about me. And I'm putting in the work now that my kids are going to love me. I'm their hero forever because of because of the decisions I make now. Yes. We turn down things because I say, I don't want to travel. I don't want to be away from my kids for 3 nights. I don't want to do this. They see that. We might turn down money because it's like, no, I just want to hang out with my kid. I want to lay on the ground and just be there with my kids. Yeah. And they see that we are very, very close. And so what I'm saying is that when I'm 57, 62, 68, and I'm getting older, I'm going to have possibly these people that love me, that make me want to feel like life is worth living for. Because I think if I was living on my own, if I was a single guy at some point, I'm like, why would I want to keep living? Because as bad as it got for me drinking, there were nights I was just like, I'm drinking so much and I'm going to drug so much because like, I just want to numb myself, because at some point in your 30s, you're like, I've had sex with like a lot of women. I've drank in every place possible. I perform on stage with the best. What else is there for me? And I would say having kids, and not even having kids, but being responsible and diminishing your ego puts you in a better place, that you're just like, man, I can see things on a different level, and it's great.
100%. I think that is the benefit of being an older parent, because, all of my friends had their kids in their 20s and early 30s. and and now there's like a group of friends that are also having their kids in their 30s, and I feel like I'm a better, not that I wouldn't be a great mom if I'd had a kid in my 30s or even in my 20s, but I have more patience now. I still have the same energy level. I also just don't have the desire to like hang out in the bars. I already sowed all those wild oats, you know what I mean? And by the way, I also hooked up with a lot of guys, Justin. Don't act like you're the only one who hooks up. Like, I also got a lot of dudes. I'm just saying that for the record for people listening.
But knowing you, you're probably, don't take this the wrong way, take it the right way.
I'll take it the right way.
No, because I would watch you work a crowd. You probably hooked up with quite a few audience members.
Yes. Oh my God. I just said that on Jamie Kennedy's podcast because he was asking about it. I go, yeah, dude, I fucked a lot of audience members, but on my terms. But here's the thing. It is different. And I remember we came off stage even on New Year's Eve, and women will flock to, and you're a good looking guy, so definitely take this the right way, but women will flock to any male comic. They'll be like, oh my God. But if a female comic is funny, guys are getting like really intimidated. So for a guy to have the balls to come up to me and just be like, hey, you want to hang out? And I'm attracted to him. I'm like, absolutely. I'm in like, are you kidding me? I'm in Nashville for the weekend performing at Zany's. Let's fuck. Like it's one of those things. So I have no regrets. I definitely have lived my life without any regrets in that respect. It's funny because I look at this, this is the second part of our life. You know what I mean? I'm looking at sort of COVID for me as an intermission. This is an intermission. Because my life is like, it was, right before COVID, my life, I bought this house like, a year and a half ago. Everything happened really fast in a great way. Everything's like, my life felt pretty stuck for like 20 years. And then bam, everything shot forward, which is great. I've gotten to a place where I feel genuinely great about the decisions that I make. And I no longer because we're in an industry, whether you're on stage or behind the camera, there is still an ego attached. It's always we are still performers. We still take pride in our work. And sometimes, our egos get bruised, and I've gotten to a place where I'm able to let a lot of it sort of go. And it doesn't affect, for me, my like decision making, or the fear doesn't stop me anymore. You know what I mean? It was definitely a game changer for me.
Well, that is great to hear. When you reached out, I was wondering what your journey's been, and it's good to hear somebody's journey is. If you were to tell me that you were the same person you were in 2008, what's the point of living?
It's interesting because I do know people that really haven't changed much, in the last 10, 12 years. I'm sure you do too, right?
But Jodi, if you say right now, Justin, I'm going to tell you what the future's like, that I'm going to be 60. I'm going to be living in the mountains with my family. I'm going to have a big beard. I'm going to be like a homesteader. I'll be like, bring it on. Let's go. That means there's an evolution from now to that. Yeah. And I'm still probably going to be a quote unquote, a good person. So let's bring it on. And that's the whole point. Like if you tell me at 60 that I'm going to be the same guy, then I'm probably not going to be overly that happy, because I want to evolve. I want to change. Yeah. And that's the point of like having kids. It's like having a family. They can grow and change and be with you, and you can kind of have this like little tribe that you can love each other. Because I'm telling you, when you get into your 40s, it's like life feels pretty lonely sometimes.
Oh my God, it feels so lonely. And just going through COVID, going through all of this as someone who is single and lives alone, it was incredibly difficult a lot of times, especially not like just human touch, to be honest with you. In the beginning, it was like I went like a month without touching another human, which is really unhealthy and really bizarre. So it was like, I finally, once we got over the like, I'm going to see my friend, you know what I mean? This is back in March or like, early April. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if I get COVID. They don't care if they get COVID. We are having a lunch and I am hugging another human being that I care about. And it was amazing. It became that. And then it became me driving in my car and doing normal things again to sort of bring me back into like, oh my God. Okay. Cause California is so shut down. We're just fine. You know what I mean? We've gone through so many different cycles, but
can I ask real quick, like what's going on with, the clubs out there? Are they all shut down?
Oh, they're still all shut down. I mean, I'm still doing drive-in shows, and outdoor dining just opened up again, but like, it's just been like, it's crazy for the comics out here. I mean, the Comedy Store, everything, quiet, nothing.
Like, comics that made their living at this, like on the road, like, what do they do now? I mean,
nothing. Where so many people, it's very sad.
Well, there have been many comics reach out to me in the past 9 months, a year. And all I can say is like, I'm just so grateful that I pivoted at a time where during the pandemic, I thrived. Like
Of
people are looking
course.
for,
My God. Yeah.
and what we do is like, we're a small media company, and my family is my biggest client pretty much. But basically, I can write, produce, I can direct, I can do the whole thing. But we choose to do everything pretty much as a family. So when the pandemic hit, we just started giving people more entertainment, and we started getting paid more because more people are watching it. So
Yeah,
it,
of course. Oh my God.
it was kind of like the flip side of things. Like our 2020 was a very successful year, but at the same time, like like I said, a lot of comics were just like, I mean, I'm talking about successful comics.
Yeah.
They were just like, can you maybe mention my book or whatever? And I would pry a little bit, and they were just like, no, I'm kind of like living off my wife now because I haven't been able to like get any work because all the clubs were shut down.
Yep.
And so essentially, I think a lot of careers are just really gone. And I don't know if stand-up will ever come back in the same capacity for a very, very long time.
It's definitely gonna take a while. The good news is that I'm really grateful that, you know, you pivoted at a great time. After the trouble runs, after those experiences, I was like, I'm never doing them again. The money's not worth it. Well, I was just like, the money's not worth it. I'm not in my 20s. The truth is that I was like, I'm just going to hone my craft in Los Angeles. And
Sure,
I
yeah.
did. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
And
Jodi, as I tell all the comics, if you really have a voice and you have something great, YouTube is,
yes,
I'm telling you, but a lot of comics are too lazy. Like okay, if you can learn how to tell a story, use a camera, edit really well, if you can sustain an attention span, and that's how we're successful. If we have like a 10-minute video,
right.
and you watch 8 minutes of it, it's going to put that video in front of a lot of other people. And that's how I've been successful for years, is because not because like we had kids or whatever. It's because basically I can make a video that people will watch 8 out of 10 minutes of, and YouTube is just saying, I'm going to keep putting this out in front of people. If you keep doing that 3 times a week for years, at some point you have a library and you're making passive income. I tell comics, I'm like, listen, you can't do stand up on YouTube. Nobody's going to give a shit. But if there's a way that you can take narratives and be compelling and funny, you can bring your creative mind to that place.
Yes.
And but you do have to have the learning curve of learning how to use a camera and other things. But if you really want it, you really want it. Things
Yes.
have changed. Things have evolved.
Exactly. I mean, here's the funny thing. You just said that a lot of comics are lazy. But having said that, a lot of comics will go to an open mic every single night of the week. They will wait. They will put their names on that list. They will write comedy all day long. So a lot of them have that work ethic. They do have that ambition and fire in their belly. It's just something new, which can sometimes be scary. It's the unknown. But, so many comics, so many people that, when I started, in this industry, just everybody was like, the goal was to get your own television show. If somebody could just give me well, here's your opportunity. Create your own and put it on YouTube. Make your own show about what you want to talk about. Make it compelling, make it fun. You're a storyteller. Like, this is your opportunity. There are so many platforms out there now where I always say, I'm like, everyone's a star and no one's a star. And I mean that in the best possible way. There's so many platforms where you can put your content up, or content can be seen. It's amazing. You know what I mean? There's so many different places to view stuff, and it's great. And it's finally given so many people a voice, and I think it's amazing. It's
great because families like ours, we're biracial, I have an interracial relationship. I adopted kids. Like, we can get our voice out there and we can inspire a lot of people, because the fact is, I tell people, and this is not arrogant, it's humble. I tell people that our videos are important. The work we're doing is important because we're sending a positive message. We're just a real family, but the people that watch us, we're changing their lives because they're seeing a positive family who isn't cheesy. I'm still edgy. I'm still sarcastic, but they're like, at the root of that family is love. And they spend time together and they have integrity. And so that is an important message, especially for the age of people who are getting all their consumption of entertainment on the internet. So if you're providing this to people, you're providing a service and something good for the world. And that's what I really believe.
No, it's amazing. It's just amazing. It's amazing what you're doing. It's amazing, where you've come from. But at the end of the day, it's interesting the way you talk about, the place that you were at mentally and emotionally before, you changed your life. You were the one that changed your life. It's all you. It's always been you.
I have to look at myself and say, I don't really like that person anymore, but I'm going to make the decision to change that person.
Right. You did it. No one else did it. You didn't wait for someone to come save you. You did it. So at the end of the day, it's like that Justin, the core of who you are, has always just been a great person who wants to do good and put good out there, put good stuff out there, put a good message out there, whether, you're passed out drunk or in jail. That person always existed inside of you. You know what I mean? But yes, you're right. It had to go through everything it had to go through. And by the way, a lot of people live their entire lives in ignorance. And I'm not saying that in a cruel way, but when they say ignorance is bliss, there's a part of me that still envies that, because a lot of people are just completely asleep at the wheel, but they're living their like, here's the perfect example. They're happy though. They're happy in their own world. They don't really want anymore. And that's fine. And that's great. I feel like once you're like woke, you're awake. Like you can't go back to sleep. Like that's it. Once that light comes on and that alarm goes off and you don't press snooze and you're up and you need to do something about it. Cause I've worked a lot of like small towns where we see those people and you're like, how are they even
Jodi,
functioning?
a lot of them are our fans. I mean, I don't mean, I'm saying we put a video out, and within an hour, there's like 500 comments. So you see a lot of opinions, and you're just like, some of these people are dumb as shit. You know what I
mean? No, I get that too. Yeah. Yeah.
This is not anything to discredit this particular person. It's just overall, you realize you're just like, wow, there are pockets of humanity watching our videos that I would never hang out with.
Oh no, of course. But having said that, you never know. You could touch one person and they'll be like, oh, I never thought of that. And that light bulb goes off. The majority of those people, those dumb people, the light bulb will never go off, and they're going to live their life. And that's their purpose on this, planet. And that's great for them. But I got a comment recently about a podcast that I did, and I was talking about adoption, because I'm very open about adoption, and I want to educate people. I want people to know also how difficult it is. Coming from where I'm coming from, it is very, very difficult and expensive and heartbreaking, especially if you go the foster to adopt, which I'm not doing, but I have two friends couples that have done it, and it's heartbreaking. And so I talk about it openly, and this one guy commented, I think it was just a clip on Instagram, and his comment was, or maybe it was on YouTube. Sorry, it was on YouTube. And he wrote, Jodi, the reason you don't have a child yet is because you need to be married. I mean, he was very serious about a single mother is sort of the devil. And, how dare you just assume that you're going to have a child without being married? I mean, this person really believes in what he's saying. And I thought it made me laugh. And of course I like screenshot it and like sent it to all my friends. I was like, well, obviously I'm doing it wrong. I have to have a man. Like what the fuck was I doing? Like everything would have been solved if I was just having sex with a man. I mean, duh.
That's it.
I never thought of that.
Well, I tell you what, the being popular on these platforms is a good way to also diminish your ego, because at some point you like you get defensive about it in the beginning, but after a while you're just like, people are going to come at you for anything, and you just like, you let it go. You
cannot read the comments.
Like I tell people, I tell them the way we're so successful is that I create, like I told you, I don't consume. If I spent my whole day going through the feed, I would not be creating things that people like.
No, of course not.
I would rather create things that you like and have you scroll through the feed looking at my stuff.
Right.
But I'm probably not going to see your stuff because it's not an insult anymore. I just don't spend time on there.
No, I totally get it. Now let me ask you a quick question, and then we'll wrap up. Is your wife, was she a performer? Was she like into it? I mean, when this sort of like took off, I mean, obviously the performer in you and, seeing that, was she in the industry, or was she like, what are we doing here?
She modeled for years. Like she was doing high-end modeling, and she dabbled in some acting and stuff. But when I met her, she was a controller, like an accountant.
That, by the way, that would have been if you were on stage and you just said that. When I met my wife, she was a controller. I mean, just that statement alone, maybe the best joke I've heard in a long time.
I think I've said those exact words. Nobody's had a wittier.
Well, because I'm a comedian, and I'm like, oh, that's gold. You just saw your wife she was a professional controller. I mean, like, that's amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what she did. And so basically, when we got into the YouTube, it was from a very sincere place of just like, let's create memories. Like for me, it was like I had a day job, but I said I want to learn how to use my camera better. Like I want to like these my twins are so adorable. I just want to film some of this. Hilarious. And so one thing just went crazy, and then after that, we just kept doing what we were doing, and then we just started getting a following. I started getting better,
right?
And then next thing you know, everything just kind of aligned. But really, if we didn't have the work ethic, if I didn't have the intensity I had, like it would have stopped years ago.
It would have stopped years ago. And that's what I admire about you. But I've honestly, like, you're just such a good person. I've never, you know, there's not a lot of people in this industry that I met that I'm like, this is just a genuine human being with an amazing work ethic who's also really talented. And I couldn't be more happy for you and your family.
I want to say, I really appreciate you saying some stuff in the beginning, because I've seen, like, with all the stuff with the male comics and like some of the stuff they've done in the past. Yeah. I really, you know, it's like, I really, all the years of doing stand-up, I really looked at any female comic as just like, not even like my peer, but my friend. And like, it's almost like, it would be insulting to do anything other than write jokes with you or ask you to come out. It would just be like so degrading. And I remember performing with like a lot of really attractive comics, and I just would never, ever think about crossing that line. Now, would I go out into the audience and find somebody in the front? Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Me and you, definitely. I'm sure we were both like scanning Alaska, like, who can we take home?
I know.
Collectively,
but
like, what are we?
I really appreciate you saying that, because that was something I really, you know,
you're definitely one of the good guys. And there's a lot of them out there. It's not like there aren't, but there are also a lot of guys out there that are just, that I had to, and I talk about it a lot, but I'm definitely fortunate that I was able to navigate through a lot of it, and come out, you know, unscathed. But, you know, there was a lot of moments where I had to like think, like, I could tell this headliner was bringing me on the road, or we were just like going, you know, to Ventura. We weren't going far, but he was going to like kiss me afterwards. And you don't want to like offend him and like upset him. And then he like says, you know, talk shit about you, and then doesn't bring you on the road again. And you want it's like the fact that women even have to think about that is just infuriating, that we have to, but we do all the time. Like, okay, how do I got to go into this situation and, you know, still be cool and still let him think that, you know, I don't want to bruise his ego, but I also don't want to hook up with this person, but I also want to work again. And it's just, but that was never a thing with you. And,
but the stuff with like, you know, Chris D'Elia and all those guys like that, that's serious stuff. But I mean, it should be happening. Like you shouldn't be acting that way. So, you know,
nobody should. And it is definitely about time.
You know right away that these things are not acceptable, like the Louis C.K. thing, all these other things. It's like, and that's why I say I was really happy that like I prided myself on treating, you know, women, you know, there's nothing more than I'll perform or I'll write with someone, but to be able to think you can act that way to another peer is like, it's incredulous. But, you know, it's very unfortunate for him, but it was a story that I followed for a little bit, and it's kind of it's wild, but you know, it
is really wild. It is wild, you know, when you see like people that you know and that you've performed with. Yes, it's crazy. All right, well, we're out of time. Oh my God, thank you so much. I could just talk to you for hours and hours. I mean, tell everyone, I'm sure everybody's listening that are your fans already know, but tell all my fans where they can find you and your family.
Well, if you're on YouTube, if you look at with the Mighty McClures, you know, we have a couple different pages there, and on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, Mighty McClures, Instagram, Justin McClure. But anybody wants to say hello, anybody needs help or questions regarding sobriety, change, how to grow YouTube, how to make money during this pandemic through social media. If you have a sincere question, then I definitely have a sincere answer. I'm here to help. Because, you know, at the point, really what it comes down to, Jodi, I'm very grateful. I'm really, really fucking grateful. I'm really happy. I'm really blessed. It's like, I'm just really, really, really thankful. And if you're really grateful in life, you will always extend an open invitation to say, I'm here to help somebody else.
Yes, totally. I'm so grateful for so many things. I mean, every experience, including America's Got Talent, which, you know, shook me to the core. There was a lot of things that people would look at and be like, how did you get back up? It's not even about that. Every experience has brought me to where I'm at today. And this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm so grateful. And yeah, it really does come from gratitude and also self-love, not to sound all like wooey, but like you really have to, like, before you can really extend, you know, yourself to other people and give to other people, like, you have to love yourself. You have to work on loving yourself, because that is the relationship that you're going to be with for the rest of your life. That is the one thing I know for certain. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we try, you know, you have a family, hopefully, you know, even if it's just a group of friends, but at the end of the day, you are your most important relationship. This is the most important relationship, is the one you have with yourself. So if that's not going so well, I would say work on that.
Yes. And that's what I had to do. And you've had to do it. And other people have to do it as well. And sometimes they hear something like this, and this changes their life to get that journey started. And that's the whole point, you know?
Yes. And sometimes they just listen to my podcast and they're like, how many cats do you have? And I'm like, fuck, I have one cat, for fuck's sake. Some people will always pick out like the weirdest thing, like, talk about your cat some more. I'm like, okay, that's enough. But I'm so excited to have you, that you were able to come on, and yeah, hopefully we can do this again. And I just like wish you all the best. I will have all of his information listed on my site, people. Thank you for listening. My name is Jodi Miller, and this is Don't Call Me Ma'am. Don't fucking call me ma'am.